Even though I might not like some of the things I'm seeing from the Trump administration thus far, the bottom line is I'm glad it didn't work, because I think for the longest time, black Americans have played the role of suckers to the Democratic Party. They've guilted us into voting for them.
They hoodwinked us into getting us on food stamps and getting us with government assistance, having us to abandon our own success.
What have the Democrats done to support the black community? And if they were doing something that good, then why are we where we are today? Shinergy is actually live. It's 5 years in the making, 3 years in formulation, and I don't even know how to, I'm like in shock that we finally got it in production, but it's an incredible product, all natural product. If you take the day and the night together, that's when you get complete energy, which a lot of energy companies don't want to tell you because they need you to be tired so you can have to use their energy drinks. But we want you to get a great night's sleep so you wake up with energy and also have sustainable energy and focus throughout the day. A bunch of natural ingredients. We use ashwagandha, magnesium, melatonin in the night drink, and we use a bunch of other nootropics in the day drink that will give you clean, sustainable energy. No crashing, none of that bull crap. Just straight quality energy. And eventually I'm gonna put my formulator on here because I think that we need to give him a shout out because I want to introduce you guys to him. Like, we don't private label this stuff. We had it formulated from scratch. I mean, we talked to a person. I said I needed to be like this. I needed to taste good. I needed to have efficacy. I want all of the best supplement products and vitamins you can put in an energy drink that can give you good energy without screwing you over. So make sure you go to shinergylife.com, shinergylife.com. And for everybody else that purchased and pre-order, when you get it, taste it, and leave a review. Give us a 5-star if you believe it's 5-star worthy. All right. Stephen A. Smith goes on Chris Cuomo's show to talk about the Democrat Party and its failures. And I ain't gonna lie, bro. I kind of think I had something to do with some of the stuff Stephen A. said. A little bit. Just a little bit. It might not be the whole thing. He's a man that can think for himself. But just a little bit. Roll the clip.
And I'm abhorring or lamenting the state of affairs within the Democratic Party. I'm basically talking about what they were focusing on. They may be doing things on the state and local level and may deserve an abundance of credit for it. But that's not the message that we were receiving. And you know why we weren't receiving that message? Because they didn't think they could sell it to us. They didn't think that that would be good enough. They wanted to make sure, oh, we're going to point to racism. We're going to guilt you into voting for us. We're not going to talk about the things that we're doing positively. We're going to talk about what the other side is doing negatively to engage in fear mongering to help you through fear factor go our way instead of theirs. And it didn't work this time. And to be quite honest with you, even though I might not like some of the things I'm seeing from the Trump administration thus far, the bottom line is I'm glad it didn't work, because I think for the longest time, black Americans have played the role of suckers to the Democratic Party. They've guilted us into voting for them, making us feel as if we're going to be ostracized, creating division within our own communities or what have you to get our vote, instead of saying to us, hey, this is what we will do for you, and it will work better than what they're offering.
Hey, let me be honest. I think that's all Stephen A. original. Because when we talked, I said it a little differently. So I can't take all the credit for Stephen A. saying it like that. But I do think in part, maybe over the years of me being bold, Candace and others being bold, it empowered Stephen A. Smith to become bold about what he's saying right now. Because I think years ago, Stephen A. would have never said that. And I think there's no lie in what he just said. But listen to what I had to say on the show, and you tell me, did any of this rub off on Stephen A.? I don't know. You tell me, roll the clip.
Is that your way of saying that you felt the left did that to us, that they just disregarded black folks?
Stephen A., they've been giving us the middle finger since I can remember. All the way back from the Ku Klux Klan. They have never supported black people whatsoever. They hoodwinked us into getting us on food stamps and getting us with government assistance, having us to abandon our own success. We had our own bus line. We had our own schools. We had all this stuff. They tricked us into believing that the white man was the cure to our own issues.
Okay.
They tricked us. And then now look at us, Stephen A. They don't have to bid for our vote. They got our vote hook, line, and sinker.
Well,
so they're
part,
never going to do nothing for us.
That part I get. But when you say they did nothing, I'm thinking about civil rights legislation. I'm thinking about infrastructure. I'm thinking about
all right. Y'all can go and watch the full clip because I don't want to just belabor the point. But I go on to tell him that it was actually the Republican Party who unanimously voted for the Civil Rights Act. The Democrats filibustered for the longest filibuster in history until Cory Booker just did the longest filibuster in history. And it was a racist Democrat. He later changed over the party to becoming a Republican. But when he filibustered the Civil Rights Movement or the Civil Rights Act, he was a Democrat because that's what Democrats were. I don't know, for whatever reason, he switched parties later on. But when he filibustered, he was a Democrat. The Democrats never unanimously supported the 13th, 14th, or 15th Amendment. It was only Republicans who unanimously supported. The Democrats were split on it. And if it wasn't for the Republicans, black people wouldn't be free. They wouldn't have the right to vote, and they wouldn't have citizenship. They never did nothing for black people. We can go back in history. What have the Democrats done to support the black community? And if they were doing something that good, then why are we where we're at today? How did we get worse? Black people were outpacing the growth and success of white people in this country in the 30s and 40s and 50s. They were outpacing white people. And I'm not trying to make a racial comparison. I'm just saying the direction that the black community was going post-slavery, on schools, on bus lines, on businesses, entrepreneurs, millionaires, on land, you name it. Black people were progressing at a higher rate than anybody else. And what happened? Maybe racism is real. The Democrats are the ones that are guilty of it. They looked at the black community, in my opinion, and said, whoa, 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 whoa. Maybe, just maybe, they looked at it and say, if we don't secure this easy manipulated vote, the Democrats will never be in power ever in the history of this country's existence. We got to find a way to get the majority minority on our side. This is what they said. And let's trick them with Martin Luther King, who's a Marxist, and let's get them to believe that it's better if they join us. Meaning that they abandon their schools, they abandon their bus line, and they join forces to force desegregation. Rosa Parks got on a white bus, but black people had their own bus line. Did you know that? It was staged. Some of y'all know it was staged, right? There was a young lady that actually got in trouble for sitting in the back of the bus, but she couldn't be an example for the movement because she was 16. She had a baby out of wedlock, I think, at 16. They couldn't use her. So they staged Rosa Parks to do it so that they can get the reaction they wanted, so they can pass legislation that they wanted. It wasn't natural. It didn't occur. It wasn't this woman sick and tired of going to work every day and doing all this and all that. I think Rosa Parks, she had a car when she did that. She had a car when she did it. It's all staged. It's the problem with black people today. We thought Martin Luther King, I have changed my mind about Martin Luther King, not in totality, because there may have been things he done that was good, but the totality of, not the totality. Some things I do like that Martin Luther King did, and I think he stood for some things that I value. I think overall, Martin Luther King screwed us. I think he screwed us. Don't you find it interesting that he is now on every street and statues are elevated in his name, but they don't get Thomas Sowell, they won't give him a position in the Black History Museum. What's his name? Clarence Thomas. I said Thomas Sowell, I'm confusing them. Clarence Thomas, they won't give him a time of day in the Black History Museum. They don't consider Clarence Thomas whatsoever. He'll never have a statue. Have you ever thought of that? Thomas Sowell will never get the respect that he deserved. There should be a statue of Thomas Sowell. Why there's no statue of Thomas Sowell? They barely talk about Booker T. Washington, do they? Y'all hear them talk about Booker T. Washington? When did they talk about him? And all these other conservative black men that were entrepreneurs in spirit that generated so much wealth and success for the black community, they won't talk about them. They don't get the name in the lights. They don't have no streets named after them. Why is MLK the most elevated black man to ever live? You know why. because I think they used him as a pawn to control the black community. They used a black reverend. That's why that Negro Reverend Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson still hold the title Reverend, and they ain't preached at a single church. I want y'all to go back in history and see if you can find Martin Luther King sermons. Tell me what church Martin Luther King belonged to. I'm not talking about denomination. I'm talking about what church was Martin Luther King's church. He was a traveling evangelist activist. I don't believe, from what I know, that he didn't even have a church home. But they knew that the black man would admire and respect the reverend, respect the pastor, because black people were knee deep in spirituality in the church. That meant something to black people back then. So if they want to manipulate you, they will manipulate you with a pastor. Al Sharpton ain't preached a sermon in 50 years. Why is he still considered reverend? I'm telling you, they can manipulate the black population through the church. And I believe that's what they did with MLK. Because if you listen to Malcolm X, and I'm not trying to pick a side, but if you listen to Malcolm X, maybe you should listen to what he said. Malcolm X was a separatist. And I'm not all for separatism in perpetuity. But at the time when black people were growing and building as a community, separatism wasn't a bad option for them. Just like Jews were separatists, Asians were separatists, Italians were separatists, generally speaking, meaning that they had their own community, they kept money in the community, safety in the community. I mean, it was a community. Black people were the only group of people, by and large, that said, let's break from our community and force them to accept us in their community. Let's try to put our kids in their schools, and let's abandon our schools and our teachers because they can't get a job at the white schools. Instead of us building our schools, we want to abandon our schools and go to the white school. And the black teachers that are teaching black history and things that people complain about today don't have an opportunity to teach these kids. And I want this to be very clear because somebody's going to take me out of context. I think that inevitably, it's a great thing that we all are one. Inevitably, it's a great thing that we don't live in a country that's divided by race. But I honestly believe that that should have been a natural occurrence and not perpetuated, instigated, and strong-armed by the government. I believe people would get along if people created value for one another, in fairness and in trade, we would all got along. Do you see there being a problem with Hispanics that come over in this country? Eventually, if you add value, people gonna get along. All right, I said enough. I love you guys.